Hello everybody, we're coming at you from retire earlier and or better, either at home or abroad, whatever makes the most sense for you. So today we're taking a look at this video. I've said before that I like to react to videos that stand out and catch my attention. You know, like you see so many and then that one that stands out, that's the one I want to talk about. And this is 7 things we don't like about living in Panama. Expats in Boquete, Panama. When I watched this video, I instantly liked this video because there are so many videos now. It's a fad where, you know, when you're on YouTube and the internet, you can see these trends developing where in the past, the only thing that the vloggers would do is tell you how wonderful everything was. Bloggers. But now there's a new trend where bloggers pretending to tell you the other side of the story, and you'll see titles like, oh, you know, the worst thing about Mexico, or when you watch the video, what you really get is just a skimming in an effort to keep the video at a certain level to keep the viewing public feeling good so that they'll, you know, keep watching and liking the video and doing all those things that are really good for the algorithm, right? By the way, you know what to do if you like my video, and subscribe so that you can help our algorithm. And yeah, so the first thing is that that they don't like is the Napoleonic Code, which is a system of law in a nutshell that says that you're guilty until you're proven innocent. And the example is made that in the U.S. it's common law, which is that that you're innocent until proven guilty. So there's a lot more to it than that, but that's basically it in a nutshell. And it comes down to that they're telling you to be careful, that other expats have told them to be careful who they deal with. And I really like that about this, because this is in contrast to the status quo and the same thing you hear over and over in the promotions and the retire abroad media, where, you know, everybody is so amazingly friendly, and I'm sure they are. Panamanians are friendly, no question about it. I'm not saying they're not. That's not the point of this video at all on any of these points. But I like this video because it stands out, because at least they do provide a little substance, whereas most of the others just pretend to tell you that they're going to provide some substance in their titles, but then they pretty much don't. Yeah, everybody's friendly. You know, the Rams are always saying, Rams retire abroad media and magazines, and their cheerleaders are always saying everyone is so amazingly friendly that you never have to have a care in the world about who you talk to, because everybody's just going to, you know, just adore the ground you walk on, and everybody's going, okay, yeah, right. So Number 2, that laws are constantly changing. Yes, that is part of the Napoleonic law system. See, that's the part that's not understood. It really goes under the same category. The same thing happens in Ecuador and Argentina and all these, Latin countries, Central America, Mexico, South America, and, any other place that is based on Napoleonic Code, which there's plenty of them in Europe also, places like Portugal and Spain and such. That is one of the characteristics, is that their laws are constantly changing because they have that power. There's a lot going on at this time, summer 2017 in Ecuador. There's been a lot of changes here, but here's what I'm observing. Ecuador has had some major law changes at least a half a dozen times since we've been here 6 years, and that's an average of once per year. That's a once per year major law change in Ecuador. Now that's significant. And you may say that the same thing happens in the States. Yes, because in the States, unbeknownst to a lot of people, their system of law has slowly been morphing into the characteristics of a Napoleonic Code. But that's a subject of a different video, and that's why you see a lot of all this over-regulation in the States and all these laws. Now that's a different kind of video. This is not a political video. I don't want to go there. I just wanted to explain that laws are constantly changing is part of this whole system when you go abroad, Spanish-speaking countries, Latin countries, and all other Napoleonic code. Civil law is also known as civil law in Europe. The common law countries are only the English-speaking countries, Ireland, the UK, some of the other outposts, common law outposts, Canada and the States and such. So they had lots of problems, and it turns out that a lot of the local expats in Panama are telling them, gee, we didn't know all these things were happening. Well, that's part and parcel of the retirement community that really is just going to retire. The average expat isn't driving from the States through Mexico and through Costa Rica, and they're not doing these things. That doesn't apply to most people because they don't do that, but it does apply in this way, and that is that if you're going to these places with the idea, a lot of people want to go to start a business, for example, or they want to go and do this and do that and do that. So for you, right, you need to perk up and pay attention to this, because the minute somebody shows up and starts doing a few things like this young couple, they start having lots of problems. And they didn't get that from any of the other Panama expats, because they themselves aren't doing those things, and they aren't really doing much of anything at all as far as activities, liability producing type of activities or commerce or anything like that in the grand scheme of things. I know that some of them are, but the majority of retirees are not. The ones that do usually are part of, the Ram Retire Abroad media and magazine, and their cheerleaders. They're all part of the same group. So anyhow, you see a lot of this laws that change. I think even more so, the more of these expats go into a place, which we've talked about in other videos, the Gringo or foreigner vicious cycle, which there is a cycle and it spans over a period of time. And part of that is these laws changing in the government's favor. In other words, taxes become higher. Like in Ecuador, they started taxing everything. The car taxes went through the roof. Bank accounts started getting taxed. This all happened within a short span of a few years, while the big influx of foreigners was coming in from the promotions of the Retire Abroad media. You see the pattern, right? Governments getting greedy and passing laws and requiring way more out of foreigners, more and more out of foreigners, right? That's the pattern. And then people voting with their feet and then leaving them holding the bag. And so then, the idea here is to give you an insight into these patterns so that you realize, what's actually happening, and to be able to talk about it. Because, it's important to talk about things as they are, not as we wish they would be. It's all part of that vicious cycle and all works together. So the way that they've figured out to stay out of trouble with the changing laws and the fact that they're doing, these activities like driving in and bringing in a vehicle and such, is they figured out that they must have a lawyer. Now, this is a point that speaks to me as someone that goes abroad for the freedom aspect of it. I don't have anything against lawyers. I use lawyers, and I have some very nice lawyers. But the idea that in order to just exist peacefully, you must have a lawyer is a porcupine to me. It's just kind of like doesn't sit well with the idea that you're a free person. You have to be this person that has this, these lawyers that you have to pay all the time. And, it's just to each his own. But the thing is that in order to live a peaceful life, you need to be a person that's not interested in adversarial relationships. And in order to stay out of adversarial relationships, it sounds like that what they're saying is you've got to have a lawyer. Because otherwise you've got situations you get into where you get taken advantage of. And I see this in places like Ecuador, where the foreigners, the gringos, get taken advantage of by landlords. We've shown hundreds of gringos, we've helped them get rental properties, and protected them against illegal contracts and that kind of thing. And so you see this where foreigners go abroad and they get taken advantage of. I was on some local Ecuadorian forums in Spanish with all Ecuadorians, and they're talking about this subject. So, it's not just me. The locals are talking about it. And the sentiment was that it's not the gringos' fault because they don't know. It's the local Ecuadorian providers, product and service providers. They're the ones taking advantage. This is what the locals are saying on the forums. Well, there's always two sides to a story. I mean, it's true that the foreigners and the travelers don't know, but could they make an effort to know? Sure. Do they do that? No. So it takes two to tango. These folks had to pay a big fine because in times past you were able to just bring a vehicle in, and if you didn't export it back, you didn't have to import it. You brought it in on a temporary permit. If you didn't take it back out, well, if you took the wheels off and never used it again, you're not, it's not like you're driving it with expired tags. You're not driving it. You're just going to set it up and that's that. But the laws changed in making things, part of this vicious cycle where they just get harder and harder, more money, more tax, more regulation, which is, the complete opposite of why we go to some of these places. And yet, because of the gringo or foreigner vicious cycle, these things get in motion where the laws are constantly changing. They're constantly adding regulation, more taxes, things get harder, and so on and so forth. I hate talking about this, but I'm not the one doing it. I hate that it's happening and that it happens in this way, but we like to expose this. This kind of thing is happening all over the world where the Rams are pitching their retire abroad. The fourth thing that they don't like is that she uses cannabis products for anxiety or whatever, sleep and what have you. And coming from a country, the United States, where it's completely legal or at least decriminalized to do so in many parts of the country, not all of them, and then going into a place, that is getting a lot of promotion and pumping, and all of a sudden, it's completely legal, and if you have anything to do with this, you will go to jail. That's a big change, and it's not for the better. So, and also on the cannabis products, whereas you're able to, in the States, just buy them off of Amazon, the CBD oil. You can't even buy anything from Amazon and have it shipped without paying. We've already been through this in Ecuador, where you're paying through the nose for shipping, and then it takes weeks and weeks for it to get there if you get it. And then gringo prices everywhere. I like it that they're bringing up gringo prices, and I like that they're talking about these things in their video. This marks a first, this video, besides our own videos, because we've been doing this for years. And that's why it caught my attention, is because normally the videos that pretend to do this kind of a thing just pay lip service to it and don't really do it. So the thing about the gringo pricing is, it's like I was talking to a local. I was investigating some property, and after a period of time went by, he kind of figured out we're not looking at stuff, for gringo prices. And so he made a point to say to me, you're a foreigner, you're going to have a really hard time, finding something. People are just going to see that you're a foreigner and they're just going to price it at foreigner prices. Like, I don't know that, right? But that's a local telling me that. And that's telling you that they're very well aware of the issue. It's not just about pricing, say, a $1 bag of tomatoes, pricing it at $2. If that wasn't bad enough, we're talking about tripling the price of real estate, and that's just a colossal kind of gringo gouging that is just unacceptable. They know they're getting gringo gouged, and that's good. That's the first step. But then they say they haggle. Now, there's a limit to that. The way I see it, right, if the ride's $2 and you get quoted $5, that's telling you something. And what I normally do is just tell them what the price is. Well, it's $2. If they say okay, then I get in. But that's not haggling. That's just telling them, no, it's $2. Haggling would be, the ride's $2, they say $5, and you say $2, and they say $4. That just does the same disservice that is being perpetrated with the whole idea of tourist gouging and gringo gouging, because you're not paying the local rate anymore. So there's really no haggling there. There's just holding them to what the price is, and if they don't want to do it, I usually just say, okay, thanks, goodbye, and that's it. But this is an issue everywhere, but in tourist areas, which is understandable. However, when we live somewhere, when we move somewhere permanently and become a resident, as such as this young couple has done, it becomes very annoying after a period of time, because you're not just passing through, you're not going home, you're not careless about it, and it matters. So, who wants to be treated like a tourist when they're not one, And number 6 was interesting because we've talked about bugs, and I'll tell you, we made a video, 3 reasons not to move to Panama, which was similar to this type of video, and and we said something about the bugs, but we didn't get any flack on any. We got so much flack just on the bugs, and so it was interesting to see them talk about bugs. And one of them was the poisonous frog, which I didn't know Panama had, but they do have that poisonous frog that can be really dangerous for pets that put frogs in their mouth and that kind of thing. So $60 Airbnbs, that's a touristy price. It's a good deal from a hotel standpoint, but all that tells you is how expensive the hotels are in Panama. Panama is not a cheap destination, no matter what people try to tell you. Everything is pretty high priced. There's a lot of, if the place is really small. And so the video begins with how much they love Panama, which is great, and keep the video on a positive note. And then it also ends on the same note with how much they love Panama. And we also love Panama. We've always said the same thing. We return to Panama often, and we like Panama. It's not about not liking the place. It's just about giving a balance. I like the way this couple did this in this video. I do see some things in what they're discussing that confirm to me that the gringo vicious cycle is definitely in motion, with the way that the government agents are attempting to take advantage of them, and them having to go to a lawyer to get the government agent in customs to just do his job to renew the import permit on their vehicle, because he wouldn't do it. And that shows a disrespect and a fraudulent interaction where, if they give you a hard time, then you don't get your vehicle, and guess who gets the vehicle? So there's a fraud element to that, and and so they had to go to their lawyer just to get these government agents to do what they should be doing. And that's a red flag, and that's an area where the vicious cycle is showing up, besides the gringo gouging. There's a lot more to the vicious cycle that we've talked about in a different video, and there are other underlying issues going on in Panama that were not discussed in this video. Perhaps they just haven't been there long enough, or they're out in the mountains. They bought some land way up in the mountains, sort of kind of away from the heavy population area. So, but there are underlying things that we're well aware of, and so if you're interested on getting the real skinny on what's going on in some of these places, check out the links below. We've got brand new service. We can either do it for you, or we've got a course where we show you and teach you exactly how to do it and how to implement all of the things we talked about in all our videos. Go abroad like a pro, be informed, know exactly what you're getting into, and do it like a pro. With that, thanks for watching the video. You know what to do if you liked it, and leave a comment. Let us know what you think about this video. Your opinion matters to us, and have a wonderful day from Frank and Angie.